Good afternoon and welcome to the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 21 years of profiling excellence in government IT mission programs. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss critical issues facing government and industry leaders in rolling out zero trust strategies and technologies. With me on today's show are Angel Rodriguez, Division Chief, Office of IT Development, Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, commonly known as the ATF. David Volker, Zero Trust Implementation Lead, Department of the Navy. Captain Patrick Thompson, Infrastructure Technical Director, PEO C5I, U.S. Coast Guard. Karan Sandhi, Global Public Sector Chief Technology Officer at CrowdStrike. Michael Hardy, Field CTO for Public Sector at Red Hat. Mike Tippin, Distinguished Security Architect of Cybersecurity at Verizon. We're talking all things Zero Trust. Angel, we're going to start with you at the ATF. Give us a top line as to how the effort is going on your Zero Trust journey.
Absolutely. Thank you. And good afternoon. It has
And by
been
the way, congratulations on that opening of the Forensic Center. I forgot to mention that.
absolutely.
Well
Yeah,
done.
I actually just flew back from that event the other day.
Outstanding.
So still a little bit jet lagged, but yes, it was a great opportunity to see our technology and our planning and our executive leaders kind of all coming together to kind of forward the mission of the agency. So it was definitely a great occasion. Um, uh, as far as the progress that we're making with Zero Trust, I think that first off, I would start with Zero Trust came at the heels of a number of other modernization efforts. We had numerous requests, of course, as a federal law enforcement agency working with federal entities as well as state and local entities to kind of beef up some of our requirements well in advance of Zero Trust. When Zero Trust kind of came down alongside with multi-factor authentication, I think the biggest benefits that or the biggest positives that we had early on were that we had already done the requirements gathering piece, the strategic planning had already been put in place, and we had already did a rollout, if you will, a rollout plan, which included the prioritization of all of our key systems. So we knew exactly where we should start, how we would start, and how we could achieve success further down the road without impacting our ability to achieve our mission. So that would definitely be at the very top of our progress.
Outstanding, and we appreciate all that you all are doing to help protect this nation, quite frankly, along with all the folks over at the Navy. David, you've got a lot of moving parts over there. I know you all talk a lot about your identity management, your microsegmentation. You got to stitch it all together. A lot of entities to manage there. Tell us about how things are going over there.
Yeah, everything at the Department of Navy is going as expected. We have key partnerships that we've identified with our Naval Identity Service that's been
Mhm.
designated as an enterprise service for the Department of Navy by the DON CIO. The other part of that is we do have a good group of cybersecurity service providers. Basically, that is our SOC type of operation for the Department of Navy. And the programs, with our implementation plan that was first published in 2024, really ask for programs to audit their technical baselines, understand what they have, their pieces and parts, and see if they can reconfigure any of those items, and then reach out to their CSSPs to start talking about how do we best microsegment our environment based on those things that we want to protect. And so it's been going fairly well, as you guys know. Our flank speed environment has met target and advanced level zero trust. And so we're leveraging that to the greatest extent possible. And we're moving forward to that target end of FY27 deadline for zero trust.
A lot of driving going on there to make those things happen in a short amount of time. Captain Thompson, Force Design 2028 gets published. You all get a sizable amount of money. You're on a tear implementing those capabilities. At the same time, you've got a lot of legacy things that you're trying to stitch together and make it all work. Give us a state of the state as to where you are in laying down that architecture, that zero trust architecture, in this fast-moving environment you find yourself in.
Great point. So there is a lot of influx of money. There's obviously a huge appetite. You know, we're on the dot mill, but we're part of DHS. There's an aggressive timeline to meet a lot of these new operational requirements. And I think the thing that really makes the Coast Guard interesting, you know, from a zero trust point of view, is that it's as much as it's a technical problem, it's really a logistics problem. We have 1,500 units all over the world. You know, obviously, most of them are CONUS, but you know, we have ships, we have aircraft. There's a diverse set of environments that we have to take this to apply it to. And similar to Angel's comment about there was an appetite for modernization of IT, you know, prior to this push for zero trust. And I think, you know, when I look at zero trust, what I love about it is that it really allows us to confidently deploy these new technologies in a secure way. And it also, you know, puts some very tight boundaries around all the different parts of our moving organization to, you know, say that you have to meet these baseline identity management pieces, these baseline network pieces, these baseline application and data pieces, and really kind of puts everyone moving in sync towards a common goal. And I think it's, you know, it's exciting. And I think, you know, the most exciting part of it is the new technology that we're going to be able to confidently and securely deliver to end users, particularly in the areas of mobility and satellite comms and 5G wireless, that allows like a, you know, huge diverse global workforce like ours to move around and take care of our operations, but do so in a you know, in a way that is effective and efficient. These new mobile solutions allow our operators to be able to do things where they're not having to go take a pen and paper out to the field, write down a whole bunch of notes, drive back to the office, hand jam those notes in. They can actually take that device out to the field, take pictures, do those, type in those forms on site, and then be done and go about their day. So I'm very excited about it. I think these mission critical sensitive apps are going to be the future of how we effectively and efficiently operate.
Could not have come at a better time. So hats off to all of you and all that you're doing on over there. Karin, you know, I think about all these different pieces of technology that are getting insert, all these different devices, legacy, IT, OT, et cetera. I think about all the instrumentation that's needed to sort of stitch this together. Insert CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
Give us a state of the state as to where you see things these days.
Yeah, so I want to open with what, Angel, Captain Thompson, and Dave have sort of brought together, right? Every organization's on a maturity journey when it comes to zero trust. Some are much further along. What we found is that there's a forcing function to putting the right kind of security tooling in place. Like the big forcing function that everybody knows about is move to the cloud, and then of course Mythos. What Captain Thompson talked about is all these modern capabilities that are focused on the mission. When they're building these modern capabilities, they want to put modern security tooling in place. Unfortunately, some organizations were sort of caught off guard with Mythos. And what that's done is it's forced people to say, well, in our zero trust framework or our zero trust journey, we didn't really do a good job of automating patching, having a systematic approach towards patching. So we're finding that some of these activities are catching up on. Others, which are table stakes now, which is, hey, do we have good endpoint detection and response? Yes, they do. Pretty much universally across the organization, they have a mature endpoint detection and response capability. Do they have identity protection capabilities in place? Yes, they do. Do they have a framework for how they respond to incidents in an agentic or automated fashion? They're still early in that process and figuring out how do they automate response, how do they automate triage. But a lot of the basic tooling that, 4 years ago that we used to worry about are no longer in focus, and they're more and more thinking about agentic applications, move to the cloud, posture management, and things of that nature.
Absolutely. And you bring up some very good points, including this shift to the cloud. Insert our good folks over at Red Hat. Michael, you all have seen people on this journey, right? That has to be done securely. There's obviously, it needs to fit into the zero trust architecture. Tell us how you all sort of insert yourself there, if you will, become part of that solution, and what you're seeing out there across this ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely, Luke, and thanks so much for having me. Glad to be back with you. You know, what we're seeing is essentially a reinforcement of what was already a really strong foundation. Everyone has touched on the points of everyone was on this journey and there was this thirst, this appetite for modernization, and that's been occurring, right? But already in our environments, like we already do least privilege, right? Like Red Hat, we're a platform company. So we're what we're going to build, what you're going to build your solutions on top of, right? So we start with that secure foundation. Everything starts with identity, right? So that's already been handled really well across public sector. The privilege of my position is I get to see across the entirety of the United States government. And starting with identity and moving to device, understanding who is in our environment, right? Do we understand our protect surface, right? So there's that inventory that's going on. That's been really exciting to see. And also the discovery of process, understanding the processes that are occurring in our environment so that we understand where we're going and what we're doing, the auditability, and taking all that data and making it actionable across our environment. That's been really exciting to see. And it's been great to see our customers adopt automation in such a way to enforce this architecture across their landing zones.
Really do appreciate all that you all are doing on there to seal the deal, if you will. Mike, how about at Verizon? We think of you as ping power and pipes. You're way up the stack these days. Certainly a big part of the zero trust architecture. Give us a state of state from where you all stand.
Certainly. So we have a really unique perspective in that, like you mentioned, we are far up in the stack, but we get to see everything from the commercial space to federal, state, and local governments across the spectrum, which gives us a very unique capability to see, how exactly certain customers and certain, groups are really implementing it, and allows us to pass that information along to, some of these other agencies that maybe, I don't want to say behind, but are, not as far along in their journey on zero trust. And, with our unique capability, being a TIC 3.0 provider, that also helps. That's one of those areas that we're working to modernize. And I think that's got the longevity aspect of that is going to really help support federal, state, local agencies, and even commercial aspects. So that's kind of where we're looking at.
Absolutely, and much appreciated for all that Verizon's doing to help on this journey that we're all on. All right, we're going to talk about a specific program, and Dave, I want to start with you. I think about the magnitude of assets, in the air, on the sea, under the sea, on the land. It just, it makes my head spin, and I know that you all lean on the defense industrial base heavily to sort of help you partner all that together. Yeah, do you want to give us an example of a program that you'd like to highlight that either stripes across all that or you want to sliver on something? I'll leave that up to you, but we're certainly very interested in hearing about it.
Yeah, so the one I would highlight is actually our flank speed environment from the early 2019, going out to Palo Alto and looking at the different types of systems that were available, what vendors were able to provide, and then looking at what PO Digital has done as far as doing the research, the partner that we use to substantiate our cloud zero trust environment. As we got the definition from the Zero Trust Portfolio Management Office, from the DWO CIO's office, really helped us define what those requirements were going to be to define that target level zero trust and also that advanced level zero trust capability. And as we marched into 2023 timeframe, much ahead of what we had as far as our implementation plan signed out by our Secretary of Navy, flank speed as an environment was already close to target and eventually did make target in advance. And all the work that those men and women came together a very highly technical job to understand how we're going to implement that in the environment, and then push out those types of capabilities to over 500,000 users across the Department of the Navy. So it's a really monumental effort. With that environment, we're able to look at our field offices, our office buildings, those places where our recruiters may be located. They're able to get our Nautilus devices and now backhaul into that cloud environment completely secure. We also have the ability to do on-prem application hosting for virtual machines and application containers, and then securely connect those hybrid cloud environments back to the mothership, if you will, that flank speed environment. And over on the Marine Corps, they're right behind them in their Hyperion environment. So we have two well-established, what the Zero Trust Portfolio Management Office would call our course of action 2, or that cloud substantiation. And we want to drive that success into each one of our programs. And as you know, we have large infrastructure in the Department of Navy with Marine Corps, and also big Navy, all the ships. So it's a big challenge, and we are going after it. And we're really relying on those engineers that have that capability expertise that they've been providing to the warfighter for decades now, to help us and work with our cybersecurity service providers, integrate with our Naval Identity Service to get the complete Department of the Navy at target level zero trust.
And you mentioned 500,000 individuals, and it's not like they're just sitting in an office in a major city. So we can appreciate the complexity there. Michael, how about at Red Hat? You talked about striping across public sector, private sector. You want to give us an example there?
Yeah, certainly. So we've helped multiple clients across public sector rapidly adopt phishing-resistant MFA. We're assisting multiple clients currently in adopting encrypted DNS. And then, Kubernetes and containers have been the motivating factor for a lot of application development. And microsegmentation is all over the place now. So we're seeing a lot of maturity in that deployment pattern for applications, which again makes everything much more secure, to where we're able to segment down our networks to the smallest denominator to ensure the access that's provided. And we're excited to see other conversations happening around encrypting that traffic between the applications that are living on the platform. So that's really exciting too. We're making sure that everything that's inbounds is also encrypted as well.
Right. Microsegmenting all the way down to the bare metal and back up again. Super important. We've all learned our lesson on that one, that's for sure. All right, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about zero trust architecture, security, strategies, implementation, etc. Looking for an example right now. Angel, I'm going to come up to you and ask you to highlight a specific example, if you will, of where you all have been rolling out this capability.
Oh, definitely. So, like I talked about a second ago, we already had a really good, solid plan that was prioritized, that basically had some of our mission critical systems, of course, at the very top, and then some of the systems that weren't as impactful at the bottom. At the very top of of that list were our systems that do case management. For example, Spartan, our licensing systems, and our tracing systems that are basically operated by one of our directorates. I guess I can say a group of directorates. One being the Office of Science and Technology, which is mine, and the other being Enforcement Programs and Services, also known as EPS. So over the past, I'm going to say 12 months, there has been a large push for zero trust implementation throughout the portfolio. And some of the early adopters were those two groups. One being EPS's licensing and tracing systems, and Spartan Case Management, which is run by field operations. So both of those systems are critical elements or critical pieces to the way ATF does its regulatory and enforcing mission in regards to firearms. The Spartan application is probably one of our largest And in that case management system, it is, goodness. I mean, if you can imagine case management from A to Z, Spartan does it.
Mhm.
That includes connectivity to state and local law enforcement. That also includes APIs that have the ability to reach out to other applications upstream and downstream to incorporate information so that you get additional insights, if you will, from that case management data. And of course, analytics, business intelligence, the entire suite as outputs for our executive leaders for things like operational planning and risk.
Mhm.
A good example would be a unit was deployed at this date and time for response to X situation, right? And that was a success. So that could be highlighted within the system so that when a similar operation comes up in the future, versus them trying to figure out what's the best mix for them to have, they can go in and they can see that information and say, okay, we need this type of equipment, we need this gear, we need this type of truck, these types of comms. Press a button, make it happen. So
Full
again, Spartan,
situational awareness. Yep. Good.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. So Spartan has successfully implemented zero trust architecture, and our licensing and tracing portfolio is following on its heels. So the licensing and tracing pieces of our portfolio deal with, again, what you talked about early on, the industry piece, right? I want to go and buy a firearm. I have to go and do an E4473 at a FFL, which is one of the firearms licensors. And then there's a process there. That process then connects to several systems on the back end to make sure that I am authorized to purchase that firearm. And
Mhm.
then it returns a reply back. We've gotten that reply down from months down to hours. Again, because of those inter connections that we've done on the system side that are promoted primarily through zero trust architecture. So
And no
those
doubt those are, if I may, high valued assets over there. So, yeah, not surprising that you focused on them to lay your zero trust architecture down on, and we really do appreciate you protecting those capabilities. That's for sure. Corinne, how about at CrowdStrike? You've got a lot of different visibility points out there. You want to give us an example of one where it's been a real mighty success in the implementation of zero trust architecture?
Sure, yeah. This story actually comes from a customer that reached out to us. And I'll set the stage. This customer had a lot of point solutions in their environment previously,
Hmm.
tools that were, supporting a very narrow use case. It was either around patch management or vulnerability management or things of that nature. And they said, look, we have way too many agents running on the endpoint. We can't get to our maturity of zero trust with point solutions, and we want to reduce the number of agents. We want to reduce some of our costs associated with those individual siloed tools and consolidate. And it was a welcome sort of lead in to us when we spoke to the customer. We said, okay, what do you want to prioritize? They said, one, tell me what my cost savings are going to be, because if I can save money, then I have resources now to go apply to other areas. So we worked with them to say, okay, here's the cost savings, and I'll share some of these numbers because they're pretty drastic. They went from spending roughly $4 million on these individual siloed point solutions to almost $1.2 million when they consolidated into our platform. And
Wow.
the luxury that we had, because we have a single sensor that performs all these wide gamut of functionalities, we can have
Hmm.
that same single sensor send the telemetry to a single console. So you get the convenience of having a single place to go look at these events, triage those events, actually act on those events. And previously, those customers were creating individual playbooks or having somebody look at a single screen for vulnerability management, another screen for IT management or asset management, and all those forces, all those individual consoles went away, all those individual agents went away, and the user experience is great. Like, all of us have a workstation, right? We don't want to see more agents running and hogging up those resources. So that was one net benefit. From a security side, the biggest new thing that this customer received, because they used to run manual scans, and the specific example is, you might run a scan on a Thursday for vulnerabilities, and over the weekend you may have a major vulnerability that you didn't know about because your scanner wasn't running. By having a single agent, or a single sensor as we call it, that continuously monitors in real time all the vulnerabilities that you might be exposed to, and more importantly, it focuses on what the adversary is actively attacking, and it prioritizes the vulnerabilities and risks that are actually tailored to your environment. So instead of giving you a high score for all vulnerabilities or all risk in your environment, it'll tell you, hey, this is the specific vulnerability, the specific attacker that's going after it. And by the way, this is exploitable. So being able to tell these very concrete stories, I think are super, super important. And the last comment I'll make on this one is something new that started over the past year with customers as they're going into the cloud. We did a great job of educating customers that, hey, not only do you need to have cloud security posture management capabilities, you need to also have runtime protection. So, Dave spoke earlier about the fact that you're spinning up all these cloud instances, having all these containers out there. Well, those containers need protection, just like your workstation at the endpoint. Let's
Amen.
monitor them in real time to see what adversaries are coming after. We did a good job of educating the customers around those. But the next step, and something new that started, is that they're actually outsourcing certain third-party open source patching functions to other vendors. And we love partnering with them because we want to be able to go to our customer and say, look, we've got you protected. So if you have a container that has a vulnerability for open source packages, we've got you protected, but it's still a good idea for you to go to these hardened containers, outsourced and run by another company, that reduces the attack surface altogether. So if you reduce all those vulnerabilities with an outsourced company that's giving you a hardened container, there's less alerts, there's less footprint for you to go after. And I love that part. And this customer's on this journey. They have the muscle memory. They're very aggressive about actually instituting good security practices. And I love this engagement.
And appreciate the ability to still down, the needle and a stack of needle kind of concept as well. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Captain Thompson, you all are on this journey. You've got a lot of moving parts areas that you described. You want to give us an example of a highlight of a success that you've had, or just an implementation? You can tell us whichever way you want to go there.
Sure. So I think zero trust is really a mission enabler. Unless we have that real strong level of trust and verification, we really couldn't open up ourselves to allow this mission's critical data and access in a mobile way. And I think it's really critical that we've enabled this. But one of the things we did most recently, which I think is a huge success story, and I think it'll really resonate with the viewers, is we've taken what we all love every day in our personal lives and at work, is having these mobile devices available as we walk around between our buildings. But as you can imagine, when you're out at a cutter at sea, you don't have a reach back to those cell phone towers, right? So they didn't have that kind of user experience, right? The only time they would get access onto that data environment is when they logged into the few number of computers that are available on board. So one of the things we just changed recently is we actually developed a system where we can put 5G wireless on board a Coast Guard cutter. So we have 24 pico cells all below decks, in all the different major spaces, and we have a big cell phone tower kind of on the mast that puts like a 5 to 10 mile bubble around the ship. And what's great about that is cellular technology, similarly when you're driving down the highway, has really good handoffs between cell tower and cell tower. But these 24 pico cells that we have below decks, as you're going between watertight boundary of a ship, those Faraday cages that are each compartment on the ship, they lock that RF inside of it. But because cellular technology is great for handing off between point to point, we've been able to give all the crew members their own cell phones, their own mobile or tablets to kind of go about their day and work on things. That has been a huge mission enabler. You can imagine the boarding team is being able to have a device with them. They're able to communicate back. They're able to fill out boarding team information, communicate back to the team. All the people just in their normal course of the day are able to easily communicate with each other. We did have an engine problem on the last patrol that we put this on our first ship, and they were easily able to bring that team of engineers on shore into the meeting. They were bringing video chat. They were able to show them, hey, these are the engine parts that we're having problems with. Here's what we're hearing. Here's what we're seeing. Huge value in that. We did have a medical issue where someone got something stuck in their eye, which is obviously very terrifying, and they were able to bring in a couple doctors to kind of advised the medical staff on board on how to stabilize the eye, got the person off on a helicopter. They're perfectly fine 7 days later. There's huge value in that technology. And the only reason we're able to provide it is that we feel confident in the zero trust implementation that we've done, kind of following flank speed that was discussed earlier. We obviously have a very similar implementation. And I think the value to the operators, the value to our mission is incredible. I think people are really enjoying it, and it really starts to get people to realize, where the future is going and what we can do to really improve our efficiency and effectiveness of our operations.
And you said that that's an awesome story, and you said enjoying it. Look, people want to work efficiently, and I think this is probably a huge morale booster as well,
Absolutely.
because they can just go, right? Hey, there's something wrong with the engine. You're piping in the experts. You're standing right there. This is what it sounds like. I think that's awesome. So hats off, and stitching it back to the zero trust architecture, trust there unlocks that capability, I think is a fantastic point you're making there. All right, let's talk about priorities. David, we're going to start with you at the Navy. I know you have a whole aircraft carrier full of them, no doubt. But give us your top two priorities that you may have there.
So our top two priorities is for our programs to, as I was saying earlier, to audit their technical baseline, understand what they have in their environment and what we could possibly reconfigure to take advantage of the expenditures that have already been made. So we've been doing cybersecurity for years now. And so with these new design methodologies for cybersecurity that we call zero trust, really I wanted the programs to take advantage of that, reconfigure what they can, and perform a pen test or a penetration test of the environment before they do this reconfiguration, so we can get an overall idea of what their security posture looks like, do that reconfiguration, and then re-engage another pen test to see the overall value and the difference of that reconfiguration. There may be some items in their technical baseline that they believe could meet that target level zero trust end state and outcome, but maybe it couldn't. But we take that information and we provide it to our acquisition folks, so we understand, the level of items that we need to buy for that specific capability and that specific location for the war fighters to be secure in their environment. And so that will help us optimize every dollar. So that's my first priority, is to understand what we have, and then second, optimize every dollar we're given towards meeting that target level zero trust.
Absolutely, and I think it's a really good focus, right? Yeah, you want to save money. Obviously, that makes sense, but let's stretch every dollar that we have to the max and get $2 worth of value out of it. That makes an absolute whole lot of sense. Mike, I'm going to come down to you at Verizon. Let's do a twofer here. One, give us a specific example. You touch on the fact that you're in the private sector, you're in the public sector, right? You're striped across these capabilities. Give us an example, if you would, of a great program rollout. And then, if you will, give us your top two priorities behind that.
Certainly. So one of the examples that really kind of rings true, I kind of, want to kind of take off of what was just said, is cost savings. That's a huge thing. Security has never been, one of those areas where you can truly see a return on investment. And that's one of those things that, bottom line dollars really struggle with. So we want to partner and do what we can do the best way we can do it, to show this is a cost savings effort. This is how we're going to do it. And one of those ways, again, we'll go back to, our TIC 3.0, capability.
Mhm.
Some of our agencies that we support, they don't have, a $1 billion, infrastructure or a $1 billion aspect to be able to come back and say, hey, this is how much money we can spend. They're very limited. So the way that we partner with them is providing them this TIC environment and saying, along with a SASE environment, and then putting a zero trust platform in place so that they can have all of it. And we're doing that for them. Now, our priority there, again, cost savings taking into account is an area that is tough, because you've really got to be able to sit down with your customer. You've got to say, hey, I know this is expensive. I know this, this is going to be a tough sell, but let me show you, this is how we're going to do it. And this is all the benefits that you're going to get from it.
Mhm.
So with the TIC environment and being able to say, hey, look, your journey is not there. Your journey is just beginning. We're leveraging this in a customer that's not federal, state, or local government, and they're doing really well with it. Here's some examples. And so being able to see that in real time and say, this is how this is going to help, and this is how we can better secure you and give you a better capability, for lack of a better term, the most bang for the buck is what we're looking for. So that's kind of how we're looking at it from a zero trust perspective.
Gotcha. And your number one priority for 2026 is?
Yeah, our number one priority, our CEO, Dan Schulman, made it very clear. We are an AI first company. We are going to leverage AI. I know that seems to be the big buzzword right now, but we're going to leverage that to really make sure that we are providing our best customer experience. He challenged us to embrace all of AI and where we can improve things from. We're leveraging AI in our secure service edge and in our trusted internet connection as we build it out.
Absolutely. We really do appreciate that. Angel, top 2 priorities for the ATF in 2026.
Just 2. Goodness. Now I gotta cut my list
I
down.
know there's a whole building of them, but give us your top 2. The Navy did it. I know you can do it.
Absolutely. So number one, I would say we have to establish or maintain interoperability with our upstream and downstream systems and technologies. Like most of the folks on the line, we have a significant amount of architecture, application systems from 10, 20, 30 years ago, as well as some things that are pretty much on the cutting edge that we're bringing into the organization now. And that goes across cell phones, comm gear, crypto gear, mobile vans, you name it, right? All the way down to tools that use ArcGIS for geolocation, et cetera. So all of those applications and systems have to be interoperable. That data has to be able to exchange between them in order for us to have those quality insights. So while deploying zero trust architecture capabilities, we also have to be sensitive to the impacts that interoperability equates to in regards to our system functions. I think I mentioned early on, quadruple factor authentication could be exceptionally valuable, but not if it results in a 3-minute query response time, right? So we have to balance out what that looks like within the enterprise for ATF. The second thing would be effectively streamlining zero trust architectural deployments across the enterprise with minimal exceptions. I think the one thing that kills us in the security arena is exceptions. As always, a program office that wants to do something differently, they want to have an exception, they want to use a different port, they want to use a different authentication mechanism, what have you. And what that equates to is it sometimes can impact the value of something like ZTA by bringing in avoidable risk. So, it really touch upon the costs and the acquisitions to do that streamlining, but also touch upon the SOPs, which will require us to really fast forward many of our internal, I'm going to say, modernization and efficiency efforts within the portfolio management space. But overall, everything must enhance the ATF's ability to achieve its mission
And minimize that soft attack surface. We really do appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about zero trust architecture, specifically talking about, well, we're talking about priorities right now. We're going to go to Red Hat and get your top priority for 2026.
Yeah, sure, Luke. So top priority is one, moving as many customers as possible to our fully supported zero CVE containers that just launched this year. So any workloads that can support a little bit more upstream proximity, we can help them get to a zero CVE containerized deployment for their workloads. And secondly, is we're doing a lot of post-quantum education. That conversation is beginning to happen in the field, and we're helping our customers adopt quantum-resistant technology that exists in our portfolio and helping people understand their crypto inventory and what that migration is going to look like, because that's really at the heart of Zero Trust is encryption.
And right around the corner, we appreciate that. Captain Thompson, top two priorities. You've got Force Design 2028 fully underway, being realized. Top two priorities for you in 2026.
So I'd say the top two priorities, just because it's a huge logistics challenge for us implementing a lot of these things. 1,500 units. We have ships, aircraft. We have remote radio sites on top of mountains, on islands. One of the biggest things we're trying to get is to a mature, modern, SD-WAN network, and we're actively working on that. We're building out our hub sites. We have hub sites on Coast Guard locations. We're partnering with industry to put new hub sites in commercial locations as well. And we're going to tie all these different SD-WAN units back to those sites that we have resilience and redundancy. So just the logistics associated with that makes that a huge priority and a huge focus of ours. The second thing is identity management, just making sure we get our identity and access controls set up for multi-factor authentication on all of our different systems. Obviously got it done for a lot of systems already, but we still have a lot more to go. There's huge legacy systems that are going to be challenged as we monitor. So we're going to have to modernize these apps just to meet these basic kind of identity management solutions. So I would say those two are going to be the most challenging for us. Just because of legacy technology and just the logistics associated with having so many different locations, so diverse across the entire globe as a worldwide entity and force.
Well, we know you can do it, and you've got an ecosystem of partners out there to help you do it as well. Corinne, how about CrowdStrike, number one priority for you in 2026?
Yeah, I'm gonna split that one into two quick ones. We're trying to modernize the SOC, so that's the number one priority, is to bring in agentic capabilities into the SOC. So a lot of the mundane activities that a human typically does can be outsourced. If you Google, malware analysis agent from CrowdStrike, there's this incredible video that shows how an agentic AI agent can go out and do analysis on malware autonomously and basically give you the data right in front of you. The second big priority is on the customer facing side. So imagine the ATF has built a agentic application that they're using to do enforcement action or fill out forms. We want to make sure those agentic applications are secured from the ground up. So putting in prompt injection protection, making sure only sanctioned models are being used, and also making sure that, on the workstation side or on the workforce side, anybody who's trying to copy and paste things that are sensitive in terms of documents or content, they can't be put on non-sanctioned AI applications. So only sanctioned AI applications can be used by the end user. Only sanctioned models can be used for building those agentic apps and then modernizing the SOC.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. All right, we're going to call an audible here. Going to ask the three federal executives on the panel to just give us your number one lesson learned there that you can impart on the audience. Perhaps there's vendor partners out there that are trying to help you. Angel, as you go on the journey, number one lesson learned that you've discovered.
Number one would be that acquisition strategies must be robust enough to encapsulate a certain amount of portfolio variability. There will be changes, there will be ups and downs, and if your acquisition strategy is a straight line, it will impact your ability to get to that finish line.
Amen. A very important part of the partnership. Captain Thompson, number one lesson learned.
So we stood up a zero trust task force just to make sure we had, for me as the task force commander, straight up to the flag officers and as the CIO and cyber commander, we had a direct line, really trying to make sure we had executive understanding and oversight and control, because there's a tight timeline, especially of a September 27 date for a lot of the initial DoD mandates, and then ones after that. It's hard to get in an entire organization, especially when you have a kind of a federated IT organization like ours, to really get everybody in alignment. We're moving down the same path, and just making sure you have an organizational structure that supports that. I also completely agree with Angel's comments about robustness and agility of your acquisition strategy. Incredibly important. That was something we implemented early on, just recognizing the importance of those things.
Have to be able to zigzag in that space for sure. David, how about over at the Navy? Top lesson learned as you all are going on this massive journey over there?
So the top lesson learned for me is really finding how powerful we can employ artificial intelligence to meet our visibility and analytics requirements for zero trust. That was truly astounding for me. Some of the things, especially with the agentic AI, that we're able to do things with very low compute and memory storage capabilities distributed across the environment to be able to provide pattern of life, be able to detect good citizens, adversarial threats, be able to determine if we have an advanced persistent threat in an environment, along with our microsegmentation, controlling that data pathway from a least privilege standpoint, allows us to really focus the kind of data that we need to look at to detect those threats. And artificial intelligence has been very huge to identify those very quickly. And so I was really happy to see that.
Very good catch, and we really do appreciate that. And I'm sure that's just going to get better and better. Okay, we're going to fast forward 2 to 3 years. Mike, I'm going to start with you at Verizon. We're going to talk about, what's it going to look like 2 to 3 years from now? We talked about you all at sort of the bottom of the stack. You've worked your way up into the stack. What's Verizon going to see? What's Verizon going to be 2 to 3 years from now?
That's a great question. We mentioned AI earlier. I don't, again, crystal ball. I think that we're not going to see a lot of new security tools. I think you're going to see an overhaul in how the government approves and trusts technology. I think that's going to be the big one. I hope that their focus is going to be that as zero trust finally is forced the federal government into moving to like a functional continuous ATO model that will improve, and that those zero trust networks are constantly monitoring the data. They're checking identities and watching traffic in real time. All of that is going to be, I think, is going to be where it's going to truly show, and we're going to get the most bang for our buck.
Really do appreciate that, and we look forward to it. Michael, Red Hat, what's the demand signal out there? What do you all see that you think will be realized 2 to 3 years from now, as you've been on this journey with us all from the very beginning?
Yeah, so going back to kind of my opening comments where I talked about data and process, right, is, zero trust at its core is continuous verification, and that creates a lot of data at its core. And so what I think is going to happen is through AI ops, we're going to be able to differentiate the signal from noise and tie all that together in process, and really scale security in a much more efficient capacity across our environments, which, to Captain Thompson's point, like, we're in the cloud, we're in the data centers, we're on ships, we're in the mountains, we're all over the place. Our enterprises are tremendous, and AI is going to help us scale, and AI ops is that tool.
Fantastic, and we really do appreciate that. Karan, how about at CrowdStrike? What's in the petri dish there that will be fully realized 2 to 3 years from now? And what's environment look like? Well, what's the anticipation there?
Yeah, so I think, and this is definitely going to be realized because we're already seeing the groundwork being laid for this. There are going to be more and more specialized agents taking over the mundane function. You'll have a hunt agent, you'll have a malware analysis agent, you'll have a exposure management agent, and these agents are going to do some of the heavy lifting for a human to validate and verify what response to take. And I think that's very, very important. People need to hear this repeatedly from leaders in the industry, that there's always going to be a human in the loop, because the human knows the context. The human understands that Captain Thompson's about to do a mission, and this is not the time to reboot his machine. This is not the time to, revoke his credentials. You can contain the threat, you can monitor the threat, you can make sure that you put the right security controls in place, and the agent's going to help you put those functions in place, but it won't understand that there's something going on from a mission perspective, and that human knows. So we're seeing the groundwork being laid for agents to be brought into the enterprise, and we think it's being welcomed with the right context and awareness for the workforce.
Fantastic. Captain Thompson, it's 2028. We've fully realized perhaps the effort that you have underway there. I'm a freshly minted officer coming out of the Coast Guard Academy, aka the factory, as you all like to call it. What can I expect to see? What am I going to be issued? What am I employees going to be doing in regards to technology at that point in time?
So we're pushing towards a concept we call our digital sea bag. I think everyone understands. You graduate from boot camp, you get your sea bag, you throw it over. It's kind of everything you need. The digital sea bag is, we're getting to a spot where we're going to plan to issue people, their own laptops or tablets or mobile devices. That'll be yours until it has to be recapped or you choose to leave the service. Right. That's a different model, and we're trying to get that out to everybody. We're about maybe halfway through all of our personnel at this point. We have aspirations to get to 75% by the end of the year, which is a huge improvement. That is an expectation from the user. But what I think what you're really getting to is when you get to a true zero trust environment and everyone has that ubiquitous access and mobility type solutions, and everything is kind of running smoothly, is that you have access to data across the spectrum of everything that we have, and you have these analytic tools. And I think the ability for us to make data-based decisions is going to be vastly improved. When someone asks you, what should we be doing next, our graduates from the academy, they're going to need to have an aptitude for how do they leverage the data that we have across the board in all of what is currently a whole bunch of individual silos, but will hopefully be integrated in a modern data environment where these modern analytic tools will be able to parse and pull, human data along with mission data, environmentals, and really allow people at a lower level to make smart decisions that right now are kind of they're made at a senior level based on experience or gut check, but they're really not based on data, and they may be flawed. Today I think some of the decisions I make may be flawed because I just don't have the data to really make them, better. But I think in the future that data will be readily accessible, and I think our users and our senior executives are going to demand that we really make data-based decisions for everything we do. But like Karin said earlier, the human in the loop is incredibly important. That will always be there. That always provide that context. But just being able to take that data and be able to kind of provide a little bit more insight that I think that we don't have today, and I think that's really exciting. That's what the new world will bring.
Yeah, human in the loop, absolutely important, but you want that human to be as informed as possible, right? With all this information at their fingertips so that you're making the most sound decision that you can. And we certainly do appreciate that. David, we're going to fast forward. You're working on a lot of stuff. I know there's a big thrust to get through 2027, et cetera. We're now into 2028. What's that ecosystem going to look like? What's that environment going to look like at that point? What's the goal?
So the goal going into FY 2028 will be looking at any applicable advanced activities that have been defined by the Zero Trust Portfolio Management Office and getting those applied to those systems where they're applicable. Really, it's a continuation of a system security engineering approach, and we're just prioritizing the target level requirements and then going to the advanced, and then we're looking at a far secure environment out to 2030, where the whole Department of the Navy is a complete zero trust aligned organization.
Yeah, so Dave, if I'm a freshly minted officer coming out of the academy, what's that going to look like in 2028? Am I going to have a digital sea bag? I mean, is it going to be a seamless experience?
Yes, it will be a seamless experience. So for most of the people who come in, they'll be given probably a Nautilus, desktop or
Hmm.
laptop, and they're going to be able to log onto their system. They'll use either CAT card or some multi-factor authentication like biometric to be able to authenticate in their environment. They'll be assigned based on who they are in the environment, different attributes, comply to connect requirements to make sure the device they're using it is healthy, and that person is who they say they are. in the digital domain and being able to get to the resources that they actually need in order to do their job. They'll be able to see their local printers, all the applications that they have, and so the user experience should be far superior than it is today. So with zero trust in place, we remove a lot of the bloat of a cyber actor in the environment from interfering with them being able to do their job. So for the majority of the workforce, it's really going to be no different. They're still going to have that same user experience logging onto their systems, doing their work, and we'll have the cybersecurity professionals in the background defending that environment.
Seamless and trusted. We love it. Angel, you're going to take us home. You talked about these high valued assets that you're securing via Zero Trust. It's 2028. I presume you'd have all that done at this point. What's the expectation of what the environment looks like and feels like at that point at the ATF?
Absolutely. I think if we were to fast forward and go a little bit into the future, I think we will be utilizing and incorporating a lot more of the AI tool sets to really enhance our workflow processes and provide more succinct prescriptive analytics and also more high value predictive analytics. And that would enable us to respond to threats and challenges before that threat becomes a reality. And then similar to Captain Thompson's digital CBAG discussion, a one-touch special agent onboarding capability where IT equipment and gear, excuse me, are prepackaged and able to be rapidly deployed out as soon as a job offer is provided to that special agent. And this would incorporate, for example, a unified system and application access portion, which would enable that person to be effective, able to log into those key law enforcement applications and mission critical applications as soon as they're hired. And really, what this really equates to is kind of having those self-managed agents and enabling them in a way where they interact with our users, our services, and even our APIs to streamline the ability for us to accomplish our mission throughout the enterprise faster, quicker, and with more accuracy.
Really do appreciate that, and we certainly look forward to it. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for this program. I'd like to thank our sponsors for supporting us on this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of Federal News Network.